I like this hotel.
You look nice.
No, they're not your thing.
Speaking about things unspoken, let's talk about Prey. So, we got this beautiful, beautiful woman meeting her gorgeous friend, ex, I'm not sure, in a hotel room, and they have this conversation that is laced with subtext that we never know.
I thought the relationship between the two in the beginning was a study in the way that people attempt but do not achieve communication. But I have to say that the filmmaker, I don't think, gave us enough information about this relationship to understand it in any meaningful way, and was in fact guilty of the same sin of the two people, in that she was not communicating well enough with us.
I think it's interesting when you say that, because when we look at a film that doesn't give us all the answers, what we're forced to do is complete them for ourselves, which often makes us see a film that we want to see. We'll talk more about that. Keep going.
I think she gave a lot of information, because there's when the girl says, I called you and was expecting you to call back.
You sent my boxes.
Yeah, and I hope you call back. So obviously this is an issue of abandonment. And, I read it as she agreed to meet him to find out why. And then in that meeting, she also found out what really mattered for her.
When you get something that's not super spoon-feeding you what's happened, you have a lot of interpretations, right? Now, he mentioned he travels, so I assumed that he happened to be in her city. Maybe they broke up because of school. This is how I read it. And then because they're in the same city, they decided to meet and kind of hash out what happened. But the closure is something sometimes you have to make yourself.
I thought that when he said to her, do you want to come home? And she said no. That was after the conversation on the telephone with her current boyfriend. And she didn't want to go home to him either. And then she struck out on her own on the street. I thought she just found herself and said no to these two guys, and she was going to start fresh.
Ultimately, like, she spends most of this intimate, quiet, reflective scene with this one other person. Because this is a two-hander. We've got another voice, but really, this entire movie is carried by two performers.
First of all, I like the steady camera work in this, and the shots are beautifully framed. The director is very brave to hold that 1-2 shot for as long as she did. I wonder how many takes it took to get that right, because there were no edits. So anytime the actor stumbled or did anything like that, start over. And that was very brave of the director to do that, and it worked very well. And usually that's the thing that I don't like. Usually that's a cheap film trick, is they'll have a 2-shot and just hold it. But here it worked really, really well. And what this movie reminds is a song by Glenn Frey. Are you going to stay with the one who loves you, or are you going to go back to the one you love? And that's what's happening.
Ooh, I just got chills. And ultimately, neither one is going to give her what she wants.
Yeah.
And that's really what this whole thing breaks the mold. It's so easy to go back to the one you know, or the one that's waiting for you. But to go out on your own, that's something completely different.
Are you happy?
Why'd you keep asking me that?
Because I want to know.
I'm just tired.
So the first guy that she meets and the whole scenario that happens there, and then when she's talking to the guy on the phone, it looked like two different scenarios where a man was going to pull her back into a situation. So ultimately it was good to see her get out of both of those situations. So that was a good surprise. But I thought it was a good kind of commentary on the ways that, and I'm sorry for all the men, but the ways that, men are sometimes seen to pull women back into relationships.
One-sided relationships do that for sure.
Yeah,
right?
so that was a nice turn.
I really like the subtlety of this movie, and that we don't know a lot, that we have to really pay attention. And I thought the performances, especially her performance, was great. And I love that the camera stayed on her for so long in the beginning, you don't even see him, which was, I thought, really an interesting choice.
She opens and closes the film.
My thing about it was that the title Prey was misleading to me, especially because some of the music was dark, so I kept thinking something terrible was going to happen to her.
Like a thriller.
Yeah. And I thought that her coming out and the ending of choosing herself was, it was too cliche. Like if they ended the movie just on no, it would have been much more resonant and hard-hitting.
It's interesting you say that about the piece, because I thought, the title specifically, I thought it was refreshing because in the sense that I could see her going to the new guy. And that would have been like, oh, okay, we get it. This other guy is not the one for her, and she's moving on, and maybe this other guy's better. But both of them have moments where you're like, no, they're not right. Like, oh, he's drinking wine trying to prove that he's not the same dude anymore. And the other guy's like, oh, please come home, baby. We want to talk about it. I miss you so much. And like, you can see it. And she doesn't take either. She goes out. I assume the title is almost ironic. She's not Prey anymore. Anybody want to hear a fun fact? Yeah. We got the film performers in the audience tonight.